afternoon, sports fans. Welcome back to the worst podcast out there, worst sports podcast out there. I'm your main host, Raven Slayer 72, and Raven Slayer 11, and welcome to Raven Slayer's Hour. Main topic of today, per the title, we are discussing baseball news and baseball spring training. I'm unfortunately alone today, but I'm locked in, I'm ready, and I have a lot to talk about because, of course, there's been news coming out of every bit of baseball right now. You have a whole bunch of news out of from the Yankees, a whole bunch of news coming out from injuries during the spring training, during these training camps, and as well predictions as far as Rookie of the Year, MVP, Cy Young predictions. We got a lot on our plate today, so let's get right into it. First bit of news came out before spring training. The Yankees finally doing away with their year-long terrible decision about their facial hair rule. They, for centuries, for as long as I could remember when I was a kid, they had the worst rule in all of baseball, where players had to be completely clean shaven, except for, I think, the little bit of hair on their lip. All I gotta say is, regarding the facial hair rule with the Yankees, I am ecstatic. Finally happy they got rid of that stupid rule. Finally allowing players to have more facial hair and expressing themselves more with said facial hair. So I'm absolutely happy that finally done and over with. I'm predicting a lot more players coming out and having the full-blown facial hair. Going into the spring training, there were a lot of off-season signings that made each and every team, that is making every single team looking bound to look a lot better. You have the Juan Soto signings out with the Mets. Corbin Burns signing with the Diamondbacks, which we needed that help, and I'm beyond ecstatic he came to the Diamondbacks. Juan Soto, him signing with the Mets, is going to be a huge, huge addition to them, helping them become, hopefully, that team that goes above and beyond this year and gets their way into a World Series. But of course, begs to differ. We haven't seen anything. All we've seen is just spring training. But Juan Soto, him with his tenure with the Yankees, it very well could be a very, very fruitful endeavor for the Mets, for their playoff hopes in the future. Roki Sasaki moving on. Blake Snell, with him being signed. With him being signed elsewhere. Alex Bregman signing. Alex Bregman kind of shocked me with how long he held out to get signed, since he was more looking for a long-term deal. I think he signed if I'm not mistaken, he signed with the Red Sox for significantly less time than he wanted to, which, by all means, he can sign wherever the heck he wants. He just got to understand a lot of teams aren't going to go and sign these bigger contracts, longer-term contracts. Alex Bregman isn't that old yet, but he's definitely getting up there. You got other signings like Max Fried moving on from the Braves. Pete Alonso staying with the Mets, which, him being teamed up with Juan Soto is definitely a great signing. Definitely great to see him stay with the organization he started with. Willie Adames, Jack Flaherty, to name a couple. A lot of these guys moving teams definitely will make their teams a lot better, but we'll have to see what happens. I mean, honestly, through spring training, these guys are going to have their resets, have their abilities to kind of reprogram them. Well, not reprogram, but kind of reset themselves from the long off season that we just had. There's a lot of position battles that we're going to be watching throughout spring training. Me personally, some of the ones I am looking further into, the Red Sox second baseman in DH. Sorry, my apologies. I had this written down. I'm sorry, I had this written down and I just completely spaced on everything. So the Red Sox second baseman and designated hitter battle right now. Got Christian Campbell fighting for a spot. He's a rookie coming into spring training. He's very well fighting for that position as best as he can against some very, very good talent. Vaughn Grisham, David Hamilton, and Masataka Yoshida. I honestly see Masataka Yoshida becoming that designated hitter. Even his main position being that left fielder. But I can definitely see Masataka Yoshida being that designated hitter. With Christian Campbell, I'm vying for Christian Campbell. He is one of the guys that I 100% see stepping into the Red Sox organization as that designated second baseman. He's a young kid. He's great development. I could see him being that starting second baseman coming out of spring training this year. The other ones I had kind of on my list that I'm watching out for is a Diamondbacks closer. You got AJ Puck and Justin Martinez fighting for that position right now. Seeing them two play last year, I am vying for Justin Martinez. Justin Martinez had one of the best closing opportunities for the Diamondbacks. I honestly see Martinez being that closer for the Diamondbacks this year. Give me one moment, guys. God damn it. My apologies about that, everybody. But anyway, like I was saying, Justin Martinez, I absolutely 100% see him being the Diamondbacks closer this year. AJ Puck, I still see him being one of the relieving pitchers for the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks need as much depth at that position in our bullpen, regardless, because of just overall just the need of depth with the bullpen. But Justin Martinez, I definitely see him being that closing pitcher for the Diamondbacks. Other than that, the other ones I'm also looking into is the Orioles' second and third baseman. Currently, you have Jackson Holliday and Kobe Mayo fighting for that position. I honestly see Jackson Holliday taking that extra step and becoming at least either the second or third baseman. Kobe Mayo coming into his rookie year. Regardless, you'll see either Jackson Holliday or Kobe Mayo at second baseman. But Kobe Mayo, I absolutely see stepping into that role of the third baseman. But Jackson Holliday definitely making the move from shortstop to second baseman would be a great move for them. As well, I'm looking into the Tigers' fourth and fifth starters as far as their starting rotation. You got a lot of guys vying for the opportunity to be the fourth and fifth starter in that lineup. Brant Turner, Jackson Jobe, Ty Madden, Kenta Maeda, Matt Manning, Casey Mize, Kinder Montero. There's a couple of guys I see stepping into that role. More than anything, a lot of people are vying for Jobe and Mize to make that move. I honestly see Kenta Maeda being the fourth starter and Jacob Jobe being that fifth starter. Kenta Maeda is one of the biggest stars when it comes to when it comes to the pitching prowess with starting. But definitely, I see Kenta Maeda being that fourth starter, with Jackson Jobe being the fifth starter. Another one I was looking into, the Dodgers' second baseman, shortstop, and center fielder fight right now. You have a lot of guys that are able to step into those specific roles. Tommy Edman, Hai-Sung Kim, James Outman, and Andy Pages. As far as the second baseman, I definitely have it going to Hai-Sung Kim, with a little bit of back and forth between Tommy Edman and Andy Pages. Possibly Andy Pages stepping into the second baseman role, and Tommy Edman definitely stepping into the starting center fielder position. James Outman definitely is making a name for himself, but we'll have to see what happens. Another one that I'm also looking into here is that Red Sox closer position. You got three talented guys vying for that position. Right now, you got Artelis Chapman, Liam Hendricks, and Garrett Whitlock currently in that fight right now for that closer position. Out of everybody, knowing how seasoned every single one of these guys is, Artelis Chapman will be that closing pitcher without a doubt in my mind. And I'm sorry, Aroldis Chapman. My apologies. I know I'm mispronouncing his name, but definitely I see Aroldis Chapman becoming that closer for the Red Sox with how much talent he currently has. My apologies. Another one I'm looking into there is that that back and forth going on with in the Royals for their fifth starter. Four guys you have currently looked at for that starting position: Chris Bubik, Daniel Lynch, Alec Marsh, and Kyle Wright. I really haven't seen any four of these guys as of yet. A lot of people are vying for Bubik, but and I'm almost certain I'm mispronouncing his name. But who knows? Daniel Lynch might make a push for that. So we'll have to see what happens throughout spring training to see which of those four guys deserve to have that starting position. But me personally, I see Daniel Lynch becoming that fifth starter. And then as well, looking into the Dodgers' fifth starter again. A lot of guys vying for that position right now. Tony Gonsolin, Landon Knack, Dustin May, Bobby Miller, and Justin Robleski. A lot of people are definitely vying for Tony Gonsolin here. Me personally, Dustin May, I see him stepping into that role of the fifth starter. More than anything, Dustin May, he's been on and off. He's been very, very inconsistent when it comes to that. When it comes to starting games, but I can definitely see Dustin May stepping up and becoming that fifth starter for the Dodgers. There's a couple of more I've been looking at here. The Reds' fourth and fifth starters, as far as their pitching right now. Four guys vying for that position: Andrew Abbott, Graham Ashcraft, Nick Lodolo, and Rhett Lauder. I have to agree with what a lot of people are saying. Andrew Abbott definitely will be stepping into at least the fourth starting position, with Nick Lodolo following up with the fifth starting position. Each one of these guys have somewhat decent stats when it comes to the Reds. Andrew Abbott specifically over the last 2 years, he has brung down his ERA. Even though his ERA is still above 3, he has definitely brought it down. So has a current end of the year last year with an ERA of 3.72. Still, that is very high as a starting pitcher, but it's the Reds or it's the Royals. So I mean, it's the Reds. Yeah, it's the Reds. So it's kind of tougher to be like, yeah, this guy's gonna start because of his ERA. No, it's a tougher discussion to have about the Reds. Honestly, Andrew Abbott definitely stepping into that fourth with Nick Lodolo into the fifth, or vice versa. Either way, Lodolo and Lauder will be those starters. Lodolo and Abbott will be those starters next year. Two more I'm looking into. The Rays designated hitter. Again, you got two guys that are vying for that right now with Jonathan Aranda and Eloy Jimenez. Honestly, it's a toss-up between the two. I could honestly see Eloy Jimenez starting the year as a Rays designated hitter. If Eloy Jimenez's numbers aren't the best, I can see Jonathan Aranda moving into that DH position. But it's really up to Eloy Jimenez up to this point. He coming over from the White Sox, not having the best overall stats. I mean, he's barely 28. He's young, but again, his numbers are definitely not helping him overall. So more than anything, I see Eloy Jimenez stepping into the DH position. And there's only one other one I'm looking into right now, and that's the Orioles DH as well. Currently, you have... just give me a moment. You got two guys fighting for that. Heston Kjerstad and Ryan O'Hearn. Honestly, I see Heston getting that. Ryan O'Hearn, I mean, Ryan O'Hearn definitely is starting to come into his own, but Heston is trying his. I mean, the Orioles are more than anything trying to get Heston into that lineup here, wherever he can get plugged in at. But he's more favorable to be that DH this year, so we'll just have to see what the Orioles will have to see what they do and see what decision they make with their starter, with their starting DH. Some other news, of course, coming out of training camp. Some early training camp injuries. There's been some rough ones. You've seen some guys who are wanting to kind of make their move into the starting lineup. You've seen guys like that are trying their darndest to make that starting lineup. More than anything, right now, the Blue Jays lost Addison Barger. Orioles lost Kyle Bradish. Rays currently have Ha-Sung Kim hurt. Patrick Sandoval currently for the Red Sox. The Yankees with Giancarlo Stanton. Seeing him go down, it's rougher seeing him go down, him being a longtime starter for the Yankees. But at the same time, Yankees fans out there, I'm well aware you guys are very beyond upset with the numbers Giancarlo has been providing for the Yankees. I see them moving on from Giancarlo this year. He isn't the best player for him. He hasn't been producing the numbers that he needs to keep his starting position. So I definitely see Giancarlo Stanton. If he comes back this year, if his numbers are still shit, they're going to move on from him this year. Guardians losing Shane Bieber for a while. Orioles losing Blake Mitchell. Tigers with Alex Cobb. Twins with Brock Stewart. White Sox with Prelander Baroa. For those of you who play MLB The Show, Prelander Baroa is one of the dudes who just gets under my skin whenever I pitch against him. But them losing him in their bullpen, it's rough to see Prelander go down with that injury. Hopefully he will make a rebound here about mid-season. We'll have to see what happens. Angels losing Zach Neto for a while. Astros with Taylor Trammell. A's with Luis Medina. Mariners with Jackson Kowar. Rangers with Alejandro Rosario. The Braves with Ronald Acuna Jr. I hope Ronald will make that recovery before the season begins. But more than anything, we'll have to see what happens. Marlins, Yuri Perez. Mets with Nick Madrigal. Nationals with Josiah Gray. The Phillies losing Weston Wilson. Brewers with Blake Perkins. Cardinals with Sonny Gray. Cubs with Brett Bateman. Pirates with Moreta. Reds with Brandon Williams. Diamondbacks with Jose Castillo. Dodgers with Bobby Miller. One of those guys who's vying for a position for starting there. Giants with Heliot Ramos. Padres with Cole Papillon. The Rockies, surprisingly, out of all the teams, have no injuries so far going into the year. However, they have a lot of questions about Chris Bryant. A lot of these guys that I did list off here most recently, they are vying for positions in that starting lineup. Unfortunately, a lot of those guys, if it's gonna be long-term injuries, it's gonna be rough. It's gonna be rough seeing a lot of these guys not make the starting lineups because of those injuries. A lot of those guys were touted to come into the starting lineup here within the year, but unfortunately, with a lot of those injuries, it's gonna sideline a lot of those guys. Moving on from that. Where did I leave off? So going past this, looking forward past training camp. Looking past training camp, past the spring training, looking at the season thus far. The toughest divisions within baseball this year. I got two. I got one for the AL, one for the NL. As far as the AL, I honestly see the AL East is the absolute toughest division. The AL East, I mean, you got the Orioles, the Red Sox, Yankees, Rays, and Blue Jays. Orioles are looking to still be as dominant as they can be. Red Sox getting as many guys as they brought in from free agency. The Yankees still trying to be as dominant as they were last year. I see it being a three-way race for that AL East champion. More than anything, I see the Yankees still repeating and coming back to win the East, with the Orioles getting one of those what is it called? One of the wild card positions this year. Orioles are still as dominant as they have been for years, so we'll have to see what happens. And then going into the NL, I have the NL West being the toughest division. You have three teams that are going to be very dominant next year. More than anything with the West, you got the Dodgers, best team, touted throughout the land. They're going to be back. They're going to be the best. They're going back to the World Series. Ooh. But then you got the Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks are a young, chippy team. We've made significant moves going into spring training with the free agency signings. The Diamondbacks are going to be a force to be reckoned with in the NL West. The Rockies aren't any good at all. They're going to be the dead last in the division. So you got a fight between the Giants and the Padres up and coming. Honestly, with everything that I've seen from the Padres this year, I see the Padres still getting that number 3 position. As far as who makes the playoffs this year, I see it coming down to both the Diamondbacks and Dodgers. Of course, not being a biased Diamondbacks fan, but I see the Diamondbacks taking at least number 2 or number 1. One of those two could happen. I honestly see the Diamondbacks. They're coming off a rough year. They unfortunately didn't make the playoffs. Ended off at number 3 last year. But I can see the Diamondbacks making a push this year and becoming that number 2 team, coming in and being a wild card team this next year. Moving past that, kind of talking briefly about that. So it's a very, very early to determine the division records, but there's a few I've kind of looked into and kind of to determine where everybody will land. Dodgers, I see having a 100 win season. Diamondbacks, I see having a 96 win season. Padres, 95. Giants, 87. Rockies, 65. That's as far as the NL West. NL Central, it's a big toss-up in that division. Brewers are still as dominant as they are. Pirates are definitely coming into their own, becoming one of the better teams. The Cubs made a lot of moves this offseason, too, to help their team overall. Cardinals, they're unfortunately on a downslope right now. Reds are starting to come into their own. I see Brewers still winning out the division that year with at least 97 wins. Pirates coming out getting at least 87. Reds getting at least 85. And I'm sorry, I didn't mention the Cubs either. Cubs, I see getting 90 wins. The Cardinals, I see getting about 70 wins. I'm sorry to say it's 70 wins or less for the Cardinals, majorly because they're older. A lot of their seasoned guys are starting to get a lot older. Specifically, Paul Goldschmidt. I'm a huge Paul Goldschmidt fan. He was a former Diamondback, left for the Cardinals because of cheap ownership. But unfortunately, Paul Goldschmidt's getting older. I don't see him helping the Cardinals any further than what they have been so far. Moving on to the NL East. Again, it's a huge toss-up. You got two teams that are vying for that best position. Braves, I see them coming out and winning. I see them winning about 90 games. Mets, I see taking the division with at least 98, 99 wins. Phillies definitely will be pushing for another chance at the playoffs. But I see the Phillies winning 89 to 90 games. Nationals, I see them coming in fourth with at least 85 wins. They're a young team, very young team, trying to make a change from back when they had Bryce Harper. Still trying to be as dominant as they were, but unfortunately the Nationals, with them being so young and so inexperienced, I see them winning 85 games. The Marlins had the worst record last year, so I honestly see the Marlins kind of repeating. Well, one of the worst records. I see the Marlins winning about 60 games, 60, 65 games roughly. Moving on to the AL. With the East, again, I know I mentioned it, they're one of the tougher divisions. Yankees, I see taking it with 100 to 105 wins. Orioles, I see taking second with about 97 wins. Red Sox coming in at third with 90 wins, 90 to 93 wins for the Red Sox. They've made a lot of moves, but unfortunately, I still don't see them as dominant as the Yankees or Orioles. I see the Rays coming in fourth with about 80 wins. 85 wins for the Rays, just to be generous. Blue Jays, they're kind of in a tough spot right now. Vlad Guerrero Jr., he doesn't have a long-term deal currently right now. I still see him playing dominant this year. But more than anything with the Blue Jays, I see him getting about 75 to 80 wins this year. As far as the Central, the AL Central, it's kind of simple. The Tigers are starting to become starting to get into their own, coming into their own. I see the Tigers winning the Central with 97 wins. Guardians coming in at second with 95. Royals coming in third with 90. Twins coming in fourth with at least 89 wins. The White Sox will have 20 wins. Mark my words. White Sox were the worst team last year, and they continue to prove that they are the worst team, especially in spring training right now. The clips have been going on all around the internet right now. White Sox on one of their on one of the famous plays within. They currently have no wins in spring training, so if this is what they're going to show coming into the regular season, I'm not confident with them winning more than 30 games. Secondarily, there are a lot of plays that are currently running around the internet right now. There was a fly ball. Player had it practically in his glove, smacked him in the top of his head. Come on. White Sox won't win 30 games. Mark my words right now. AL West, kind of a tougher one to determine right away. Athletics are starting to become that dominant team. Astros are on the decline. Rangers were injury prone as hell last year. Mariners aren't getting any better. Angels are coming off one of the tougher seasons where you saw Mike Trout go down with an injury. If Mike Trout can stay healthy all year, I see the Angels taking second with at least 90 wins. Athletics as good as they have been, 95. Astros I see taking third with 87. Mariners I see taking Mariners I see taking fifth with 80, and Rangers coming in with at least 83. So that's kind of my predictions as far as the standings for the year. Now, going into some Cy Young favorites and MVP favorites. For me, with the Cy Young favorites out of the AL, I got three guys that definitely could make the move to become that Cy Young winner. Nestor Cortez with the Yankees, Kevin Gausman, and Shane McClanahan. There's not a lot of talent with the pitchers in the AL, but out of everybody, I definitely see Nestor Cortez becoming that better player, becoming the best pitcher for the AL, and winning it all. For the NL, it's definitely a different discussion. You got Zach Wheeler, Joe Musgrove, and Corbin Burns. Zach Wheeler, one of the better pitchers in his division. Joe Musgrove, same with him. Corbin Burns, more than anything, him coming into the Diamondbacks, he's going to have one of the more dominant pitching stats in the entire NL, and I see Corbin Burns getting that Cy Young this year. Moving on to my MVP favorites, I have to adjust my lineup. I originally had it down where Paul Goldschmidt was going to be the MVP for the NL with Mookie Betts and Manny Machado. I want to take Paul Goldschmidt off of that list. Again, he's getting older. If he can return to form this year, he definitely will win. He will definitely make a argument to be the NL winner for the MVP race. But more than anything, I still favor Mookie Betts currently as far as the NL MVP. Another guy who could make a move and make an argument to be the NL MVP, Ketel Marte. Ketel Marte coming in, both Ketel Marte and Corbin Carroll. Corbin Carroll had a rough season last year, but he's coming into his own currently. During spring training, I think he has a on-base percentage or batting average of 600. I know it's spring training, but still, those are pretty good damn stats. We'll have to see what happens. As far as over on the AL, a couple guys can make a move for it. Mike Trout, if he can stay healthy all year, I can see him making an argument for it. Jose Ramirez with the Guardians, I mean, it's tough to say. I honestly don't see him winning it all. And Aaron Judge making an argument for AL MVP. If Trout can stay healthy, if Jose Ramirez can stay consistent, then they have an argument to beat out Aaron Judge. But I still see Aaron Judge taking the AL MVP. And then, of course, I realized I missed something very important. Some prospects who can make the move to the majors. There's a couple prospects that are currently on my list that definitely 100% will make an argument to move to the big leagues this year. One guy I have on my list would be Matt Shaw. Currently has 90% chance of making it to the Cubs starting lineup. I honestly see him making that move and become the Cubs making that move and bringing up Matt Shaw. Matt Shaw, last year had a 284, 379, and 488 season with 21 homers, 71 RBIs. Between his stints with both AA Tennessee and AAA Iowa. If he has a dominant spring training outing, Matt Shaw will be in that starting lineup day one. And his defensive prowess is insanely good as well. Just phenomenal. Another dude I see making a move to the majors, Jackson Jobe. I know I was mentioning it earlier as far as the starting making an argument for the bullpen. Jackson Jobe, he can definitely, like I was mentioning, can make the move up and get into the Tigers starting lineup. He has to have a very, very dominant, beyond dominant spring training. Worst case, if he doesn't get called up right away, he currently has a 70% chance of making it. He had a very dominant stint in the what's it called? My apologies. He had very dominant stints in his AAA, AA days, and he actually got called up last year to do some pitching, and he's honestly had very good numbers when he got called up. So I definitely see Jackson Jobe making that move this year into that starting position. Another dude, Christian Campbell, currently has a 60% chance of making it. I was mentioning earlier, a couple guys could make their move up this season. If Christian Campbell goes down with an injury, which so far I haven't heard of any injury for him. So if he can perform this spring training, he makes arguments to make that move up. Worst case, if he doesn't get called up right away, he very well could get called up here later on the season. Rhett Lauder, I see him coming in mid-season, getting called up mid-season. See, who else? Oh, that's right, Jordan Lawler. Now I've had my Diamondbacks cap on all today. I've had my Diamondbacks jersey on. Jordan Lawler definitely is a great prospect for the Diamondbacks. Currently, they are pushing about 10% chance of him making the starting lineup this year. If he can perform in spring training, they have an argument to keep him on the bench this year as a pinch hitter. And worst case scenario, if our shortstop goes down with injury, they can easily plug Jordan Lawler in and have his defensive prowess. So I definitely see Jordan Lawler making that move this season, whether it be during the regular season, whether it be at the beginning of the season, or whether it be just in general getting in there. And the final one I think definitely will make that push is Roman Anthony. For the Red Sox. One of the outfielders for the Red Sox, 20% chance of currently making it. His offensive numbers are insane. He in 24 he was batting .291, .396, .498 with 54 extra base hits. He's had very good stints when it comes to his time in Double and Triple A. How that will translate to the the starting position, if he has again dominant stints in spring training, he has an argument to get called up mid-year to very late in the year. So I see him getting called up late in the year, just so guys, if they make the playoffs, if they make the playoffs, and they can immediately get, positive vibes from everything. Which brings me to my last point. Rookie of the Year predictions. For the AL, I currently have it down as Jason Dominguez, Jackson Jobe, and Christian Campbell. Two of those guys, Jackson Jobe and Christian Campbell, they currently are vying for positions in their respective clubs. If Christian Campbell doesn't get called up and Jackson Jobe doesn't get called up until mid-season, Jason Dominguez, he will be that the AL Rookie of the Year. I don't even think about it. As far as over in the NL, got a couple guys on my list. Roki Sasaki, Jordan Lawler, and Dylan Cruz. Now, with that list, if Jordan Lawler gets moved up, coming out of the spring training, if they get him moved up, he can make an argument. He can make an argument of being the NL Rookie of the Year. Roki Sasaki, again, another guy who could definitely make another argument for his Rookie of the Year. I honestly see it being Roki Sasaki coming out as the Rookie of the Year for NL. Dylan Cruz will definitely make a push. Him being the starter over with Washington, he could make an argument for himself of, hey, move me up, make me your starter. Could happen any which way. But, as I was mentioning, we're majorly keeping an eye on spring training. So, I'm going to end this off with just some of the games that are scheduled right now. So today, you got the Phillies taking on the Tigers, Nationals taking on the Cardinals, Twins taking on the Red Sox, Mets destroying the Rays right now, 10-0. Yankees taking on the Astros, Pirates taking on the Orioles, Blue Jays taking on the Braves, Guardians taking on the Cubs, Padres taking on the Red Sox, Giants taking on the Dodgers, Athletics taking on the Angels, White Sox taking on the Mariners, Rangers taking on the Brewers, Rockies taking on the Diamondbacks, Marlins taking on the Nationals, and finally the Cubs taking on the Royals. So far, as far as scores, Tigers are they're in the top of the 7th. Tigers currently leading the Phillies. With the Cardinals-Nationals game, they're currently tied in the bottom of the 6th. As far as the Twins game, Red Sox are currently beating the Twins 6-2, top of the 6th there. Like I mentioned, the Mets, they are currently dominating the Rays 10-0, top of the 5th there. Yankees are currently leading the Astros 4-1, top of the 5th. Pirates taking on the Orioles, top of the 6th. It is currently 2-2 there. And bottom of the 6th, Rays are currently beating the Braves 1-0. So, we've come to the end of my little talk about baseball. If you enjoyed this video, enjoyed the content, enjoyed the stream, don't forget, I will be uploading this to YouTube. So, don't forget to leave a like on the YouTube channel. And if you enjoy the content, leave a like, subscribe, and keep an eye out for future videos. So, without further ado, Dude Late